Hi, my name's Tiger. I was a teacher in California for 30 years, 15 years in the closet, 15 years out of the closet, as a gay teacher. I'm retired of my civic duty, and because of the political climate, I try not to be political on these videos. I want to respect people of any political background. But I did see President Trump on the interview on the media the other day. He said, I don't even care about trans issues. He said, it just makes my voting base excited. They get excited over the issue. It makes them vote, for me. Which felt demeaning. I was hearing he's using the trans community for votes. He doesn't even care one way or the other. And I don't agree with the trans ban in the military or the trans ban on the passports, banning your gender identity, which gender you identify with. So anyways, it's a difficult political climate today. And with Project 2025, there are architects of the Project 2025 in Washington, D.C. today. Russell Vought, Brandon Carr. But in that document, in my opinion, it violates the separation of church and state, because part of the intent for Project 225, and I've skimmed it, I've read summaries on it. Here's a summary of it. Removing legal protections against anti-LGBT discrimination. That's the goal of in our society in Project 225 at the White House today. So removing the legal protections for LGBT people. The laws that protect us. Project 225's intent and the architects are to remove those laws. So anyway, it's important to be for your LGBT kids and staff and parents. Anyway, my name's Tiger. I've been teaching for 30 years. I've already mentioned that, but I've taught every grade level. Taught special day class, K through 3 years, 4 through 6 special day class, 3 years, 7th grade special day class, 3 years, high school special day class and resource for 3 years, 6th grade for 9 years, that's where the 9 came from. Reading, 4 years, a reading teacher for 4 years, and a 3rd grade teacher for 5 years. So I have a little bit of experience. I have 3 children of my own, 5 wonderful, beautiful grandchildren. I've taught in youth ministry for several years when I was younger. I have a bachelor's degree in human development, even focused on adolescent development. And I have a master's in psychology counseling. Sorry, really dry mouth today. Master's in psychology counseling. I've done an internship at a public school where I counseled kids who had effects of trauma, like PTSD, anxiety, depression. So I have a little bit of experience. And I'm gay, and so in my opinion, it would be beneficial to read these kind of books in your classroom. I'm going to go ahead and read. Tango Makes Three. In the middle of New York City, there is a great big park called Central Park. Children love to play there. It has a toy boat pond where they can sail their boats. It has a carousel to ride on in the summer and an ice rink to skate on in the winter. And I've been there, and it's a wonderful place to go to. Best of all, it has its very own zoo. Every day, families of all kinds go to visit the animals that live there. But children and their parents aren't the only families at the zoo. The animals make families of their own. There are red panda bear families with mothers and fathers and furry red panda bear cubs. There are monkey dads and monkey moms raising noisy monkey babies. There are toad families and toucan families and cotton top tamarin families too. And there's the tamarin, cotton top tamarin, which is a monkey from South America. And in the penguin house, there are penguin families. Every year at the same time, the girl penguins start noticing the boy penguins. And the boy penguins start noticing the girls. When the right girl and the right boy find each other, they become a couple. Kind of reminds me of teaching high school in the spring. And of course, that doesn't always happen. That's why we're here, right? Two penguins in the penguin house were a little bit different. One was named Roy and the other was named Silo. Roy and Silo were both boys, but they did everything together. Been there and done that. They bowed to each other, they walked together, they sang to each other, and swam together. Wherever Roy went, Silo went too. They didn't spend much time with the girl penguins, and the girl penguins didn't spend much time with them. Memories. Instead, Roy and Silo wound their necks around each other. Their keeper, Mr. Cravev-Neeley, noticed the two penguins and thought to himself, they must be in love. Roy and Silo watched how the other penguins made a home, so they built a nest of stones for themselves. Every night, Roy and Silo slept there together, just like the other penguin couples. A lot of similarities. And every morning, Roy and Silo woke up together, but one day, Roy and Silo saw that the other couples could do something they could not. The mama penguin would lay an egg. She and the papa penguin would take turns keeping the egg warm until finally it would hatch. And then there would be a baby penguin. Oh. Roy and Silo had no egg to sit on and keep warm. They had no baby chick to feed and cuddle and love. Their nest was nice, but it was a little empty. One day, Roy found something that looked like what the other penguins were hatching, and he brought it to their nest. It was only a rock. But Silo carefully sat on it and sat. Will the rock hatch like an egg? And sat when Silo got sleepy, he slept. And when Silo was done sleeping and sitting, he swam, and Roy sat. Day after day, Silo and Roy sat on the rock. That's good cooperation, but nothing happened. Then Mr. Cravev-Neeley got an idea. He found an egg that needed to be cared for, and he brought it to Roy and Silo's nest. And I was reading about it in real life. There was another egg from another couple, a penguin couple that had more than one egg, and they couldn't take care of all the eggs. So they gave one, the zookeeper gave one to Roy and Silo. Roy and Silo knew just what to do. They moved the egg to the center of their nest. Every day they turned it so each side stayed warm. Some days Roy sat while Silo went for food. Other days it was Silo's turn to take care of the egg. They sat in the morning. They sat at night. They sat through lunchtime and swim time and supper. They sat at the beginning of the month and they sat at the end of the month and they sat all the days in between. I'm a parent of 3 kids. I love my children. Nothing more in life that I love than my children. But parenting is a lot of work, as Roy and Silo are finding out. Until one day they heard a sound coming from inside their egg. Beep, 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 beep. It said. Roy and Silo called back. Wah, 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 wah. Beep, beep, answered the egg. Suddenly, a tiny hole appeared in the eggshell. And then, crack! Out came their own baby. She had fuzzy white feathers and a funny black beak. Now Roy and Silo were fathers. We'll call her Tango, Mr. Ramsay decided, because it takes two to make a tango. Roy and Silo taught Tango how to sing for them when she was hungry. They fed her food from their beaks. They snuggled her in their nest at night. Tango was the very first penguin in the zoo to have two dads. Soon Tango grew strong enough to leave the nest. Roy and Silo took her for a swim, just like all the other just like all the other penguin families. And all the children who came to the zoo could see Tango and her two fathers playing in the penguin house with other penguins. Hooray, Roy! Hooray, Silo! Welcome, Tango! They cheered. All the children visiting the zoo and rooting for Roy and Silo and Tango. At night, the three penguins returned to their nest. There they snuggled together, and like all the other penguins in the penguin house and all the other animals in the zoo and all the families in the big city around them, they went to sleep. Very ordinary things. And that's the end. And thank you for listening. I wanted to share the story in the back of this book. The authors share a very important story about Steven Pico, who in 1975 was 16 years old, and he noticed that there were many books written by African American and other people of color who had their books banned. Books were being banned from public libraries. And he thought this wasn't fair. He found representation from the New York Civil Liberties Union. Together they fought the ban in court. They went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled, yes, Steven Pico's rights to freedom of speech were being violated. That freedom of speech not only includes the right to write something like this, it also includes children's rights to hear something like this. So if you're a public school teacher, please keep that in mind. That even though if you feel uncomfortable, and in my opinion nothing's wrong with this book, it's helpful to all children, but if you feel particularly uncomfortable, that doesn't mean you have the right to censor it from a child's school library. Now, if you're private school, that's a different story. That's your business. It's your prerogative. What was I going to say? I know in my case, and I'm not going to get into the story, maybe in a video in and of itself I can explain it more. And I've talked a little bit in some videos, but I was a public school teacher at one conservative school district, and in my opinion they were trying to make it a private school district, and they were harassing me for just being who I was. If a student said, Mr. C, what did you do during the weekend? And I would say, well, my husband and I went to a new restaurant. Next thing I know, I'd get a letter in my mailbox or my email saying, just a reminder, please don't share too much of your personal life. Now that would be fine if that same expectation and treatment were to all the teachers, heterosexual and homosexual, but when it's only to the gay teacher, it's called discrimination. So, I want to look at my notes real fast. I wanted to read the book. I wanted to talk about how a lot of people would say, why are you bringing that perversion into the classroom? Why would you want to pervert that in I want to remind people, it's not a perversion. We're not perverted. I'm not a pervert because I'm gay. I'm not a pervert, period. But homosexuality is a natural variation. It's like being left-handed. And I've mentioned that in some of these other videos. Talking about just the other video I was recording, how I knew this lady who was from China. She was speaking at the Day of Respect in Modesto, where they invite minority people to come and talk about what it's like to overcome some of the atrocities and discrimination, things like that. And she was from China, talking about what it was like to immigrate over here. And I asked her when she had time, I said, is it true that in China they look down on people who are left-handed? And she said, yeah. She said, when I was growing up, if you used your left hand in China, the teachers would swat her hand or the other children's hands as if it were immoral or perverted or wrong or shameful. And I bring it up because I think that's what has happened with homosexuality. You know, left-handed, we have 10% of our population is left-handed. We have roughly 3 to 7% of our population is LGBT. And we're not perverted. It's just a natural variation. We're always going to have, in every group of 100 kids, we're going to have around 5 to 7% identifying as LGBT. It's a natural variation. It's also a physiological response. So if something happens very naturally, so if I'm sitting on a park bench and Jennifer Lopez walks by, I have no control over this. I'm going to notice that she has nice beads. I like the necklace. I want to notice her hair. Oh, I wouldn't wear that hairstyle. If I were her, it makes her look older than she is. I like her dress, but a sundress, she's wearing, it's white. It's not even the season for white. Anyway, Ricky Martin, I'm sitting on the same bench. Ricky Martin passed by. I have a different physiological response. Ricky Martin walks by. I'm not going to notice his necklace, probably. My heart's going to beat. My adrenaline's going to start going through my system. My eyes are going to pop out of my head. Anyway, my point is, these things are natural. These are things that people are not choosing. These physiological responses, these natural variations. And homosexuality is discovered. It's things that people discover. And we discover it at different ages. So a lot of gay people I know, when they knew at a very young age that they were different. So some people are discovered at 5, some at 12, some in high school or some in college. But we're not perverted. Wanted to say also the myths in our society. Society has always said homosexuals are these 4 things. They're all not true. So society has said that we're criminals. Indonesia, just yesterday I was reading, 2 young men were caught kissing, hugging, not even in a sexual act, but they're being punished 80 lashes because it's illegal to be homosexual in that society. So we're not criminals. We're not sinners. A lot of people want to say homosexuals are sinners. It's awfully arrogant, by the way, to claim that the mind of God and the creation of all things looks down on me. And anyway, don't judge. Don't judge unless you be judged. I'm not even that religious, but I remember scriptures people have said that I've heard. Like work out your own salvation, your own. Worry about your salvation, or don't be the first one to throw the stone. Jesus said, let the person who has no sin be the first one to throw the stone. So, worry about your own stuff before you start. Well, I'm getting a little preachy, I know. But society has said we're sinners. Society has said we're criminals. Society has said we're mentally ill. Do you know that homosexual people in the United States, when they were arrested, often had a choice? They could go to jail or they could have hormonal therapy like estrogen. By the way, Alan Turing, the great mathematician who's also gay, that happened to him and he committed suicide. He was arrested for homosexuality. He was put on hormonal therapy and committed suicide. Also, they say we're perverted. So we're not sinners, we're not criminals, we're not mentally ill, and we're not perverts. Anyway, I think I'm running out of time. Remember, the only perverse thing about homosexuality is society's insane inability to accept human nature. Thank you. And I thought I was going to lose. I thought my video was going to, it looks like it's giving me a couple more seconds. I'm just going to check my notes, make sure I have everything. I think since we're going on 20, we're going to end it. Thank you.